Hi, welcome to another Relate Well moment. I'm Dr. Rick Marks, and it's my honor to come and just share some thoughts of my own personal journey, things I've learned about life and love and relationships along the way. And if you want to learn more about me, go to Dr. Rick Marks, Dr. Rick Marks, MARKS.com. And if you want to learn more about our Relate Well process, where we teach people, single, dating, if you want to date or married, the fundamental skills and tools and principles for healthy, connected, mature, loving relationships, go to relatewell.us and click on the core program, and you can learn it in your own home, where I teach you page by page the process, and there's an online PDF of the manual. If you're a therapist, there's a clinical training program there, sponsored by National Marriage Seminars, and you actually get 9 CEs as a part of when you complete that training. What I want to talk about today is the compulsion for completion. The compulsion for completion. I grew up in a broken home. I never felt complete or whole, even going into my adult life. And so whenever you don't feel complete or whole, we make a lot of poor choices along the way in order to feel complete and whole. And so we all have this compulsion to be whole and complete. You're going to hurt a lot of people along the way in order to feel whole and complete. And so we're going to talk about this compulsion for completion. Listen to this. If you try to find intimacy with another person before achieving a sense of identity on your own, all your relationships will actually become an attempt to complete yourself. From a Christian worldview, it's you got to love your wife, you're going to love yourself, Ephesians chapter 5. Love God and your neighbor as you love yourself. The implication of loving yourself so you can love your wife is you've already come to a place of security. You're already whole within yourself. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, and you're already secure with both of those. I always say, kind of tongue-in-cheek, people aren't okay with not being okay. And because they're not okay with not being okay, they do a lot of things in order to feel okay. But when you get to a place where it's okay to not be okay, you'll be okay. Because then you're free to live in what God wants you to be. And so most people today in culture, because of the breakdown of family, the increase in loneliness and disconnection and addictions, those kind of things, most people aren't whole and complete. Sadly, many people in the church are not whole and complete. Many church leaders are not either. When you're not whole and complete, you're going to come across controlling, you can come across abusive, or you can come across dependent, all right? So we're going to take a look at that for a little bit. Listen to this. Know thyself. Know thyself. This single sentence holds the key to finding genuine fulfillment of every relationship. If you do not grasp its message, the best you can hope for is a false and fleeting sense of emotional closeness, the kind that comes from a series of temporary attachments. Once the truth of this sentence is understood and internalized, you will discover that abiding comfort of belonging. Let me say that again. Once the truth of this sentence, know thyself, is understood and internalized, you will discover that abiding comfort of belonging. Belonging to what? To a family? To friends? The love of your life? A community of people? And ultimately, to God the Father himself. You see, it was Charles Horton Cooley who said, each man must have his I. Each man must have his I, a sense of I. It is more necessary to him to have that sense of I than it is bread. So what are some areas you need to know yourself? I mean, when we say know thyself, what does that actually mean? I'm going to give you some thoughts. Number one, to know thyself is to know your weaknesses. To know thyself, you know what your weaknesses are. You can articulate them. You have enough self-awareness. By the way, self-awareness is crucial to know yourself. It's also the fundamental principle of healthy emotional intelligence, or being a healthy, emotionally confident person. Know your weaknesses. What are your weaknesses? Do you know what they are? Have you accepted them as weaknesses? Are you still in denial to those things? Can you articulate your struggles? You need to know your weaknesses, but at the same time, you need to know what your strengths are. Everybody has strengths. Everybody has talents. Everybody has giftings. You've got to know what those are. If you don't know what they are, find out what they are. Ask questions. Do an internal check. One question I always like to ask of young people, a mentor, is if money wasn't an option, what would you do? Most people go, well, I'd be doing this, I'd be doing that. Why don't you? Well, because then they give you all the reasons why they can't. There's the old adage that if your job is your passion, you never work. But most people's job isn't their passion, so they're actually working, you see. I don't work. My job is my passion. But I also live in my passion because those are also my strengths. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. I monitor my weaknesses and regulate them. Same time, I honor and value the strengths and gifts that God has given me. Third thing you need to know is your limitations. You got to know when to say, I can't. You got to know when to say that this is not a gifting of mine. I laugh about this because I always knew what my limitations were. I was always told, but I knew them as well. In early years of marriage, Luella grew up with a dad who could do anything. He could fix anything. Mr. Fowler could do anything. Rick Marks, you do not want me fixing things, I promise you. Now, I've learned to do some things over the years, but Luella used to always think that I could do plumbing. Let me tell you something. You do not want me doing your plumbing. But because I wanted to appease her and make her proud of me, I would attempt to do plumbing, and then I'd make things worse, and then I was mad at myself, mad at her for listening, and I'd call a plumber and they had to come fix something. And I made it worse. I know my limitations, and I live in my limitations. I like to jokingly say now, God gave those people gifts to do plumbing. We're going to let them use their gifts. God gave me gifts in this area. I will use my gifts. Number 4, you need to know your thoughts, your internal thoughts, your secret thoughts that you don't want to deal with. The psalmist, where David says in the Psalm 139 near the end, he says to God, search me and know my hidden thoughts, my hidden ways. David's admitting that in him there are thoughts that he doesn't know, and he's asking God to show them to him. Know your thoughts. Know your emotions are the next one. Do you have an emotional vocabulary? Can you label your feelings other than when I'm hurt or sad? Can you say, I feel helpless, I feel hopeless, I feel despair, I feel rejected, I feel abandoned, I feel joyful, I feel relief, I feel scared? You got to have an emotional vocabulary. I feel frustrated. You need why? By having an emotional vocabulary, you could articulate and create clarity about what you feel, so you know what your feelings are in truth, and the truth sets you free. Know your emotions, but also know your fears. Know your fears. What do you fear? Rejection? Abandonment? Guilty most of my life. Fear that I would never measure up. Fear that I would never be good enough. Fear that I would never matter to anybody, because that was the way I was raised, and I took that into my adult life, and it played itself out in my relationships. What do you fear? You need to know your fears. Next, you need to know your motivations. Why are you doing that? That what you did right there, what were you hoping to accomplish? What did you expect to happen? Are your motivations negative or are they positive? I wanted them to hurt because they hurt me. That's a motivation. Own it. Don't judge it. Romans 8:1, no condemnation, but know your motivations. Why are you doing what you're doing? Be clear about it. Understand it. Know it. Next are know your responsibilities. Know what you're responsible for, what you're not responsible for. This leads to the next one around boundaries. You see, boundaries help you understand what's my responsibility, what's not my responsibility. It lets me know this is, I always say this is in my world, and that belongs to your world, right? This is in my realm of control. This is outside my control. And boundaries, you need to know your boundaries as well. You see, I know what my responsibilities are, which leads to boundaries, but I need to know what my boundaries are. Why? Because if you don't know what your boundaries are, people are going to come in and out of those, and you may allow yourself to be disrespected. Part of my boundaries are people are going to respect me. and I'm going to respect others, because that's a responsibility I have. I don't let people mistreat me anymore like I used to. I don't let people disrespect me anymore like I used to. You see, I know what my responsibilities are, and I know what my boundaries are. Know your boundaries. And by the way, know the boundaries of others. And lastly, know your insecurities. Where are you insecure? Where are you insecure in your marriage, in your family, with friends, or work? What are your insecurities? Because those insecurities will affect your life long term. You need to know them. So, once you get to know your weaknesses, your strengths, your limitations, your thoughts, your emotions, your fears, your motivations, your responsibilities, your boundaries, and your insecurities, then we realize we're all on a quest for wholeness. We're all on a quest for wholeness. And the quest for wholeness is human. We were actually created whole in the Garden of Eden. When sin came in, we into that wholeness kind of cracked. We're not as whole as we used to be. The shame and fear came into play, and shame and fear lets us know that we're not whole, we're not all together, that we got issues and brokenness. Listen to this quote. The human quest for completion can be overwhelmingly powerful, yet it generally doesn't operate at the conscious level. It does its work below the surface and drives us into believing some of the most lethal of all relationship lies. And there are two big relationship lies that are at the unconscious level. Number one is I have to have that person in order to be and feel complete. I need that person to be and feel complete. And the second relationship lie is this one. If this person needs me, then I'll be complete. First relationship lie. I need this person to be complete. Second relationship lie is if this person needs me, then I'll be complete. So let's take a look at both of those rather quickly. The I need this person to be complete lie. Listen to what I wrote here. By attaching ourselves to another, according to this first lie, we become instantly whole. You see, once I need this person to be complete. So once you attach, you now start to feel complete. All right, all their needs are met, case closed. The enticement is too much for the need to resist. Who can pass a shortcut to personal growth? In other words, if you're in my life, I feel whole. If you're not in my life, I don't feel whole. So I need you to be complete. Thus, I have to take from you. I got to be around you. I can't let you have any other person, because if you have another person, then you may not be around me, and I need you so I can be complete. So when we buy into the myth that another person will meet all our needs, then you're going to do almost anything. You'll quit your job. You'll change your appearance. You're going to have sex when you shouldn't. You're going to get pregnant just to get them to love you. You're going to travel the end of the earth just to be with them. People who believe another person will complete them by meeting all their needs become human chameleons. You lose your sense of self. You're always a mask. And you never get to know your true self. You never get to know the true you. Because all your sense of approval and admiration and purpose is in that person over there. Folks, no one person can meet all your human relational needs. It's actually impossible. It's the one another's. It's in a multitude of others that you find. A quarter of 3 strands, 2 strands. There's strength in numbers, not just one person. I need more. And by the way, if I look to my wife, her name's Luella, if I look to Luella to meet all of my relational needs, and sadly I did early on in the marriage, I was a part of this lie, I need her to be complete, then I began to take from her, a psychic vampire, in a sense. She said to me in the early years of marriage, I was like a boulder around her neck. And I was emotionally. I was so insecure and so wounded. I would take. Why? So I can feel better about me, so I can feel whole. Thus, if she didn't like me, I felt unwhole. If she liked me, I felt whole. If she approved of me, I felt good about myself. If she didn't approve of me, I felt bad about myself. And I was constantly shifting. But I was that way in high school. I mean, I could hang out with the jocks, I could hang out with the smart people, I could hang out with the regular people, I hung out with the ROTC people, because I was in ROTC, and I could hang out in the smoke hole with all the potheads. I could hang out with all of them. And I was connected to all of them. The problem was this: I didn't know me. I had no sense of self. Because I was always being what others wanted me to be. I became a chameleon and I lost my sense of self. The second lie is this one. If this person needs me, then I'll be complete. If this person needs me, then I'm going to be complete lie. This second relationship lie is just as lethal as the first, but actually it's a little more cruel. It's a little more nefarious. The person living this lie appears to be less desperate. They're not contorting themselves to win the approval of another. Instead, they are seeking someone simply to win. Operating out of the same vacuum of personal identity and self-worth, they want a relationship with someone, anyone, who will build up their weak ego. They aren't interested in commitment, only conquest. And the more conquests, the better. So, for believers this lie, a person becomes an object to acquire, like a shiny prize with bragging rights. What they feel about the person they are dating does not matter as much as what they feel about themselves when they are with that person. If you're not in my life, I feel bad about it. When you're in my life, I feel good. So I begin to control, manipulate, to keep you around me so I can feel good about me. The person in this lie doesn't have to respect another person. It disrespects people, typically. It demeans other people's personhood. Because I need you in order to feel complete. When you live these lies, you will harm others and you will harm people's personhood, as well as violate your own personhood and dignity. And the reality is, we will find our truest meaning and our truest meaning and value and worth and our sense of wholeness in two areas: in loving God and allowing others to love us, the one another's. It's when I know that I'm a son to a loving dad, and that the cross declares that I'm good enough, because you don't die for things you hate, you die for things you value and love. That you put your identity and value first and foremost in that the Father sent his biological Son to die on a cross for you. Why? Because he values you, cherishes you. And you're already good enough just the way you are, with all your faults and warts and everything. And secondly, there are other people out there who love you as you are and value you as you are. They see things in you that you don't see in you, the good in you, the love in you, the caring parts of you, and they honor those things. When we become secure that it's okay to not be okay, in that moment you live a sense of wholeness, because you embrace your strengths and you embrace your weaknesses. And you're okay with both. And you live a life such that you monitor the weaknesses and work on them. You just don't beat yourself up because you have them. And you embrace your strengths and live out of those as well. Why? So you can live fully in the present and be fully present for other people. You'll be fully present to yourself, and you'll be fully present to others. And that is really the best way to live the abundant life. The compulsion for completion happens all over the world, and it's happening in the church. Sadly, a performance-based theology tells people you're only whole and complete if you tithe, go to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, do visitation. If you read your Bible every day, it has to be a particular Bible. It can't be this, it's got to be that. You see, a performance-based theology just reinforces you're not whole. And yet, we're fearfully and wonderfully made. How marvelous are your thoughts of me, O Lord. And you begin to realize we're never going to be completely whole. That's impossible in a fallen world. But we can live maturely in love. And when you learn to live maturely in love, you find out that you're whole. You know your strengths. You know your weaknesses. And it's okay to not be okay. I pray that for you, that you will learn it's okay to not be okay. And when you give yourself permission to live in that space, go learn those things that you need to know about yourself, heal the parts that need to be healed, and embrace the things that are true about you and good about you. God put those in you. It's Dr. Rick Marks. Have a great day.